A comedy of errors, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you're witnessing right here and now. I'd like to say it wasn't my fault, but it kind of was. What happened was, which is responsible for this mess right here. Like, what? I don't want to go to school today. You ever have that ball of sweat drop down your back into the crack of your ass? Nobody does anger like the real right-wing Republican. We should take a minute to address this shirt. This is a horrendously bad bill. I don't know what you're carrying on your Discover card, but could you imagine if it was $5 trillion? I just paid like $10,000 in state and local taxes. This man has bankrupted casinos. He's going to bankrupt the country. They are going to have a lot of trouble breathing without their Medicaid oxygen. Either they're going to learn their lesson or they're going to die trying. I didn't come here to talk about any of that.
Hard Rock Lunchbox.
Yes, greetings and salutations. We made it. Just barely. Welcome to another edition of the Hard Rock Lunchbox. And of course, if you're watching this on Strangerhood TV on YouTube, welcome to the top 20. It is roughly 12:05 on July 3rd, 2025. And if I learned anything about our Independence Day is that it came late, so I might as well be late too. I'd like to say it wasn't my fault, but it kind of was. So what happened was I set everything up early because I found out that the secret to avoiding a lot of technical issues, like right off the bat, is to get both of my computers up and running like a half hour early. So today, for no reason whatsoever, I started them like almost an hour early. I was actually up getting coffee, and I was like, oh, I'll just turn everything on. So I turned everything on, and my laptop, which is responsible for this mess right here, actually had enough time to go to sleep and also power down. So when I tried to turn it on and get the camera to work, it was like, nope, it was just like a sleepy toddler. Like, what? I don't want to go to school today. And that's basically what happened. So it took me a minute to get that to wake up. And then it did that thing where I was clicking stuff and nothing was happening at all. It wasn't even giving the impression that I was clicking stuff. You ever have that ball of sweat drop down your back into the crack of your ass? Well, that's what just happened. But then a part of me realized that at this point, like, if I even showed up on time, like, who's going to be here, right? Nobody. Nobody's going to be here at noon. So I feel like we've come to an understanding, some sort of level of balance, which makes sense as an Aquarian. You know, balance, like that right there, if you looked at it right side up, would be shui and flow, balance. I'm an Aquarian. I don't believe in astrology, but I do like the Korean character for it, so that's why it's on my arm. I didn't come here to talk about any of that. What was I going to say? I don't remember. But yeah, it is July 3rd, and there is a lot that is going wrong for me because of that. So... and I was talking to the band last night, which is actually thing number one that went wrong. So, there's a lot to be, like, Monday holidays always screw me up, right? Because it kind of just messes with the flow of the week. Also, for me, Monday's like my biggest work day. Like, I usually post between 9.5 and 11 hours on a Monday for work. It's just my busiest work day. I get the most done. I get very in the zone. People leave me alone because they're busy doing their stuff, so I can actually do project after project or whatever, or complete a big project. So Mondays typically are like my longest day. So when I don't work on a Monday, Tuesday becomes that, and Tuesday I just don't want to do any of that. Also, I have rehearsals on Tuesday, so I tend to leave work a little bit earlier so I can shove some food in my face and then get to practice also late, because that's just the way I roll. You know, for somebody that used to be on time at absolutely everything he's ever done, I am just late all the time. And now I'm to the point where it's really just become expected. And everyone just like gives me like 5 minutes. You know, like my daughter had mentioned a few months ago that people are starting to pad her with time because she's also late for everything. She found out like her Frisbee captain and her BFF had actually told her, like, be here at like 5:15 or whatever, but she actually needed to be there at 5:30. When she found out, she was offended to a degree, but also was like, yeah, I guess that's fair. So I think she gets that from me when you do, and not that she wants to be late, she's just overscheduled, so she can't seem to get anywhere on time. But that's neither here nor there. But this Friday thing is really screwing me up because I had to shift all my work stuff because I also do a lot of work on Fridays, but I do a lot of outside work on Fridays, so I had to actually shift that over, just a mess. On top of which, Noodle is going away this weekend. He's leaving today, so he asked. Normally, we would just skip a Thursday practice if he was going to be away, or anybody was, especially him. It's hard. Like, sometimes the rest of us get together when he's not there. First of all, it's hella quiet, and we can get a lot more done. But, like, if we have, like, I want to say, like, musician work to do because, we don't need a drummer, like, going over parts and stuff. Sometimes we'll have it, but a lot of times we'll just skip out. But because we have a show next Friday, Noodle was like, we really should play and get the set ready, so he asked if we could play Tuesday and Wednesday instead of our normal Tuesday and Thursday, and that was just, like, a whole host of other problems. Because, first of all, the reason whenever I do back-to-back shows, which unfortunately I just don't do that many of anymore, I mean, I would like to get back to it. It's been really hard for us to schedule. But one of the hard things is like singing one night and then singing the next night takes a lot out of your voice, especially when you're an idiot like me and just go full force at it. I can do it. I know how to do it. It usually involves me like not talking a lot. I know, right? Go figure. But that's how I do it whenever I've done like multiple shows, across days. Like I used to be able to do 5 shows a week and could do it. By the 5th show, I'd be like, bah, 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 so it was fine. Like I just had to work it out. But when you're at rehearsal for 4 hours, it's way different. Like singing for 4 hours and then I sang the next night. And it was so funny because like I just wasn't really considering that. We went into like the first song that we were rehearsing last night and I was like, oh, right, yeah, I sang I sang for 3 to 4 hours last night and it was just very sore. But then of course, because we always rehearse on Thursday, the next day is Friday and you've got that Friday energy and stuff like that, but I didn't have it because today was Thursday. But technically it's a Friday. It's Friday-ish because I have Friday off because it's the 4th of July. But I also don't usually do this show on a Friday. So it just, you know what I mean? Like, it just a comedy of errors, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you're witnessing right here and now. And that's cool. I do have a bunch to talk about, but we should probably get to a little light housekeeping. There is a brand new top 20 out today. It is called the $100,000 Question. And I talk about like how I found the source of the anger in the country, and it's all MAGA related. I mean, there's a lot on the far left that is really very angry, but nobody does anger like the real right-wing Republicans. I mean, the nasty stuff that they say online and in person, I mean, at least a bunch of people on the left tend to be a little, kind of like weak about confrontation. MAGA has no problem about like in-person physical confrontation, stuff like that. But I do talk about the need for adults in Congress, and I don't know if I had talked about Tom Tillis from North Carolina. I don't think that it happened yet, but like that kind of thing is important. If you don't know who Tom Tillis is, just Google Tom Tillis and you'll see what just happened over the past week. Carolyn Levitt just being the absolute worst person on earth, in my opinion. That has not changed. But we'll talk about some of that. So that's out today. I did not get a chance to do any of the clips for the Reels or TikTok or anything like that. I will try and do it later today. I just may not get to it. So if I don't, then that's just too bad. Because I was going to do it over the weekend, but I was kind of spent from our show, which I was going to talk about, that we did up in Hartford on Friday. I mean, holy crap, what a train wreck that was. I mean, we actually had a really good show, like us, Rebel 9, like performing-wise. Like, it was a good show. And there was a decent-sized audience for the size of the place that it was. But it was a pizza place and a bar up in Hartford, and it was what you would expect. And unfortunately, they did, it's not usually unfortunately, but they did donation only, like suggested donation, like a $10 price or whatever. But, a lot of people just didn't donate. So we walked away. We took a huge loss, like even on gas to get up there. But we did have a fun show. Like, I'm still going through all the stuff that I'm going through, all my pre-show nonsense. And I'm still trying to work it out. Like, I'm basically calling in, like a lot of people, like for advice on how to get where I am. I spent a lot of time in therapy on it over the past couple weeks. I'm just having absolutely miserable pre-show experiences, and it's something I'm trying to work out. But once I'm on stage, like, I truly believe, like, and you can believe this or not, it doesn't really matter. It's from like an internal point of view. Like, when I am performing, like, everything seems right in the world, even if stuff is going wrong on stage, like, and that fuels my belief that this is the thing that I was put on this earth to do. I have a God-given talent. I'm pretty good at it. And I feel like I perform really well because it's where I belong. Like, there's theories in sort of like your own personal manifestation stuff that refers to like the zone of excellence. Well, that is my zone of excellence, is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I get really elated, and my body pumps full of like endorphins and adrenaline, and that high rides for hours. As somebody that has done a fair amount of drugs and has tasted most alcohols in this world, I will tell you, there is no high like the performance high I get and how long it carries over. I've talked to runners and their runner high, and that sounds kind of like the closest that I've had experience. The other closest is athletes, like true athletes playing high level sports, like Olympians and people that play like, pro football and pro baseball and stuff like that. When they are in that zone, it is just an unbelievable feeling of like belonging and light and all that other stuff. So I was able to have that despite all the other cavalcade of nonsense around me, including it not being a business fiscally responsible show. I kind of knew it wasn't going to be that. I hoped it would be a little bit closer. I mean, seriously, the cash that we walked out of there with was embarrassing, honestly. Like, it just really wasn't worth it at all. But I do hope that the band had a good time. I know we had a fun, commute and stuff like that. The band always does that, and a lot of laughs and all that other stuff. It also took us over 4 hours to get there because it was 3 hours anyway normally at that time, but there was an extra hour because Revel 9 was going somewhere, so that sucked. I mean, the differential is that we got home in about 2 hours and 15 minutes, so like that's kind of a big deal. But anyway, it was a good show. Oswald's played good. The other two bands were really good at what they did, so I enjoyed it. In fact, the last band that was all hardcore, Within My Eyes, they put on an awesome show. And I will say, I do have video of Kaz in the mosh pit. I don't know that I'm going to post it, like, publicly, but, like, if it's something that you're interested in, I could probably send you a clip. Yeah, Kaz being all Kaz about it. We should take a minute to address this shirt that I'm wearing, by the way. I like this shirt. I'm trying to add more color into my life as somebody who's spent his life in blues and grays mostly, like, and a lot of black and green. Like, I'm trying to add some color for spring. Like, I'm at the point in my level of depression and my cycles of depression where it's like, even just adding color is worth a shot. You know what I mean? Like, I take a lot of supplements and medications to try and mitigate my mental health. Color therapy, why not? Let's give that a shot. Maybe it works like music therapy. I mean, I haven't come across any colors that just make me sad yet, so we're going to just roll that out. But yeah, so that's that. In other Revel 9 news, we've got a show coming up next Friday at Whiskey Rocks. We've already started building our set for it. And as I keep saying about building Revel 9 sets, it's getting harder and harder and harder to put songs together because we've just written so many new songs lately, and we are just not playing all that often, but we need to road test these songs. We need to judge the audience responses, but also we need to kind of, what's the right word? It's like when you road tighten something. Like, there is no song performed as well as a song that you've played for a year on the road, right? Like, I learned that when we were touring on off of the Razorblade Diaries a million years ago. Like, we were playing 100 shows a year. All those songs got really, really tight, really, really fast, which is why technically by the time we rolled into the Reality Crush, all those songs are really, really polished. In fact, the lesson I learned from the Reality Crush is, like, I think that record is too polished and it ends up sounding like a little bit more stale than it should. And I finally pendulum swung back to where we need to be. And of course, with the help of Caggiano, like, all the new stuff, all the new singles, all 7 of the new ones are just totally in the pocket of where I think they need to be. So they're tight because we can perform them really well, but we also allow some breath so you kind of feel them a little bit better. So I'm excited for that. But the problem remains is that we're about to go into the studio again to start recording more songs, so we really need to ramp up our ability to play the ones that we have unrecorded, so we're trying to stick them all in the set. Because we're limited in how long we can actually play, then we have to start cutting a lot of older songs, especially songs that we've played a lot of, because we have to get these other songs road ready and studio ready. So it looks like we're going to be doing like 11 songs, which is more than we normally do by like one. But I tried to make sure half of them are songs that are recorded that people can go listen to on Spotify, and another half are some of the new ones. A couple of new ones that we really have only played once or twice. A couple of the other ones that I think we're probably going to be leaning towards recording, so I want to get them up to speed. But even some of those I had to cut, and then I had to cut a bunch of fan favorites and stuff because they're not flowing into the set. It's a big mess. People underestimate what it takes to do a set. Jimmy, when he used to do Craving shows, used to like wait to see what the audience looked like to build a set. My band is not like that. My band can't do that. Because we're just not that rehearsed on every single song in the Revel 9 catalog, because we just dip out of them all the time. But I can't get to a show and then write a set, because it just won't work. It's just not the way I function. I also craft sets very, very carefully. There's a mix between what I think people want to hear, what I think goes well together. Plus, like I said, there's stuff that we actually have to work on. So we're at the point now where a lot of the shows we do are about what we're trying to accomplish, not necessarily just for the fan experience. I hope that the fan experience is always good, but we still have work to do and blah, 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 and all that other stuff. That was a lot and completely unnecessary. I actually wanted to come in and talk about what's going on in Washington now with the big, beautiful, ridiculous bill and stuff like that. But I am actually running quite late. It's actually already after 12:20, which means that I've already probably talked enough. But I do want to say a couple of things about it. And I'm going to echo some of the things that I've been hearing from actually Republican lawmakers about this. And Lisa Murkowski from Alaska specifically, who ended up caving completely and voted, for the bill in the Senate. She was angry that we were like, the Senate and the Congress as a body, as a legislative body, was trying to get a bill by some arbitrary deadline. President Trump, and his ridiculous non-wisdom, said he wanted to sign this bill on July 4th. Trump is a lot of things, but what he's really good at is like branding, propaganda, and advertising. That's why you know his name, even though he's failed a couple of casinos, and by all accounts, like most of his businesses are corrupt or fraudulent and all that other stuff. That's why he's got so many lawsuits against him that have absolutely nothing to do with him being president. It's about him being a corrupt and bad businessman. So he's all about the show. He's the guy that would show up at a mall opening with the big scissors and would want bigger scissors than the next guy. That is no reason to do legislation. In fact, in my lifetime, it may have happened, but I cannot recall a single incident where Congress had to get a bill done by a certain date so that they could sign it. Other than the last date of a session, like if Senate is going away for, Congress is going home for the summer holiday or whatever, that's different. That's like a work deadline. Like, Bill, you got to get your report. Well, not our bill, but a different bill. You got to get your work done by Friday because that's when it's due and you're going on vacation for 8 weeks. That's different. I mean, this is just some arbitrary deadline that everybody's pushing through. And everyone says, I mean, literally everyone that is not an absolute Trump sycophant is saying this is a horrendously bad bill with lots of flaws in it. It's going to be the biggest wealth transfer from the poor to the rich in the past 100 years, which is just stunning, because if you check out any graph of where net income is, like, all you're seeing is the rich get richer. Like, this is not me just making stuff up. I mean, this is actually true. The rich are getting richer, and the poor and middle class, the poor are actually getting a little bit poorer, but the middle class is just staying the same, which isn't great considering GDP and productivity are increasing. Like, we should all share in that. And if you want some facts and figures on that, I recommend Johnny Harris on YouTube all the time. He's a former Vox reporter, did stuff with the New York Times. He's a brilliant investigative journalist. And if I remember, I will link to his video in the comments here so that you guys can check it out. He does an amazing job on talking about wealth equality. He just does this thing between 1950 and 2025 of like, where we're at, are we better off now? Where did the money go? Where are the benefits? It's really smart. It's about 20 minutes. It's completely worth watching. I promise you it is worth watching for just an educational backdrop of what's happening right now, because what they're proposing is just tremendous. I mean, they're not even denying anymore the $1 trillion cut that they're trying to make to Medicaid. And yeah, they're feigning it as, you know, well, we're just doing this work thing, like you have to work to get your benefits. Well, some people can't work, and most people on Medicaid are already working. So what they're doing is they're making the work requirements even harder so that people that count on financial assistance to feed their kids, elderly in nursing homes, people with disabilities. I mean, the ridiculous thing that they just expect people with like severe disabilities to work more, and they're all like, no, we'll exempt that, exclude that. But that's not in the bill. Like, they're cutting $1 trillion from Medicaid to pay for taxes. And it's not even going to cut all the taxes, right? We still have to borrow money. And as I keep saying, if you're borrowing money to give money back to people in taxes, that is a bad business move. We're paying interest on the money that we're borrowing. And as I said a couple weeks ago, I think most responsible people in the country, like that can balance their checkbook and balance their credit cards, would agree that if we just knuckle down for a couple years, pay off that debt, and then we take all the money we were spending on those interest payments as, you know, tax rebates or tax cuts or whatever, I think we'd be fine. But borrowing it now, I mean, they're going to raise the debt ceiling to $5 trillion. Like, I don't know what you're carrying on your Discover card, but could you imagine if it was $5 trillion? That interest would knock you on your ass. I mean, it's just so fiscally irresponsible what they're doing, and it's why every single Democrat is aligned against it. And as of like 12:30 last night when I left the gym, there were 5 holdouts from the Republican Party that had voted no against it, mainly from richer states, bluer states like ours, because they lowered the SALT deduction. The SALT is a state and local tax deduction. You used to get a credit for that on your federal income, and you still do. If you're under $10,000 in your state and local taxes, you do get some credit, but that is now the cap. I mean, literally in the past 5 minutes, I just paid like $10,000 in state and local taxes. So it's really going to screw us over, which is also part of the plan, because they want to punish blue states for not voting for Trump, because we just don't roll over and suck his dick like everybody else seems to love doing for some reason, even though it's bad business. This man has bankrupted casinos. They print money. He's going to bankrupt the country. That's exactly what's happening. That's what every assessment is saying, and Republicans just don't care. So my stance on it, like what I'm trying to get behind, is that most people, statistically, the majority of people on stuff like Medicaid are poor white people in red states. So what I'm trying to embrace is that all these people are going to get so adversely affected that they are going to have a lot of trouble breathing without their Medicaid oxygen. They're going to have a lot of trouble regulating their diabetes without their Medicaid-funded medication. They're going to have a hell of a time like protecting against like cardiovascular disease and pulmonary disease without all their cardiologists and pulmonologists and all that other stuff. So either they're going to learn their lesson or they're going to die trying. And I think there's some value in that. I feel bad saying that because I'm not that callous of a person. But I am so sick and tired of people voting against their best interests with overwhelming evidence to my point that they need to be taught a lesson. I already came across this path after COVID. I have decided that I will be anti-mandated vaccines for the rest of my life, because if you don't want to take a vaccine in the face of a deadly pandemic, then maybe you shouldn't. Because at the very least, we can at least start squashing the intelligence divide in this country and get rid of a bunch of people that are just too stupid to vote, honestly. And if nothing else, maybe we make my commute up to Hartford a little less because there'll be less people on the road. And I personally am all for that one. I do not want people to have to die because of it, but I feel like that's where we're at as a country. And if that's the case, then so be it. So on that happy-ass note, why don't we get to the rest of the show, which is all music. There will or will not or may not or possibly be brand new Revel 9 coming up in the show. I just don't know where I'm going to put it yet. Usually I put it like right after the top 20 or right after the top 20 or right at the end of the local block, sometimes at the end of the show, but like, I guess we'll see. Maybe I am jazzed up by the color of my shirt. I really have no idea. And more importantly, you have no idea. And that makes it fun because we're on a holiday show here, sort of. Not quite when we do the Thanksgiving one, but it is the pre-Independence Day or the Prindependence Day of America, and that's worth celebrating. But I do have brand new music from a good friend of mine. My buddy Dave's in a band called 10 Ton Mojo, and they put out a brand new song this week. It's exactly what you would expect from 10 Ton Mojo, so get your goddamn cowboy boots on and start doing some of that southern country rock or whatever it is that they do. I don't know exactly, but I dig it, and I always love whenever Dave does something. So here you go. Here's brand new 10 Ton Mojo. It's called Rebel Heart, Gypsy Soul, and when we kick off the box.